Yay! Okay, so here we go. Green Book 3, Advanced Series, Semester 3. Yes. So how'd it go with You Light Up My Life? Isn't it great? I like how the song build. It was in not that hard of a setup, I don't think. And not too bad. This song. Yeah. Start off basic. Yeah. Okay. Stardust. Stardust. What? Yeah. Nope, not yet. Stardust. Stardust is a jazz song composed by American singer, songwriter, and musician Hoagy Carmichael. Always like that name. Think of hoagies. Now considered a standard and part of the Great American Songbook. Can you name 2 other songs Hoagy Carmichael wrote? Georgia on My Mind. I think Lazy River. Do 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 do. Now considered a standard and a part of the Great American Songbook, the song has been recorded over 1,500 times, either as an instrumental or a vocal track, featuring different performers. During his time attending Indiana University, Carmichael developed a taste for jazz. He formed his own band and played at local events in Indiana and Ohio. 1927, after leaving a local university hangout, Carmichael started to whistle a tune that he later developed further. When composing the song, he was inspired by the end of one of his love affairs, and on the suggestion of a university classmate, he decided on its title. By 1940, the song was considered a standard. That year, RCA Victor released 2 more recordings of Stardust, one by Dorsey, Tommy Dorsey, featuring Frank Sinatra as the singer, and one by Artie Shaw. Shaw's recording sold 1 million copies, and Glenn Miller's rendition was published the same year. Artists including Joe Stafford, Ellis Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Billy Ward and his Dominoes, Ringo Starr, and Willie Nelson have recorded Stardust. The song was featured in several films including Goodfellas, Sleepless in Seattle, and Casino. It was inducted in the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1995 and added to the National Recording Registry in 2004. Now, I always did it the Artie Shaw way, with the trumpet, like a Harry James type of thing. But after listening, I really liked the Goodfellas movie. And there was a part during the movie, it's at the very end of the booklet, Home Play, where I guess he's like 20 there, and him and Joe Pesci, or Tommy, they're waiting for the guy to get out of a truck. They're going to steal it. And it goes, sometime I... Dun, 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 and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. That's what we're going to do today. So I rewrote the melody, the first part. If you have the booklet, you have the insert. And where is it at? What page is it? Oh. Okay. So this insert, that's the first line of the song. I cut it out. I tape it in. We got to tape it in. Oops. Oh, man. So sorry. Yeah. Maybe a little fold in the tape. All right. So we put that in there. Because the guy goes sometimes I. He goes up to an E rather than just does the regular. So let's just see here. So instead of going which is nice, like the trumpet, Cary James. I always loved playing like that. But this guy, he goes. So then it's awesome with the rhythm I'm going to use. So we fixed that part. If you don't have the booklet, you got to get it. You need that booklet. All right, so now that's the first line. Do you have the booklet, Wayne?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, all right. So now on the second line, this is optional. You could put before the D note, you can put a D flat, da 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 da, D flat note, right before. Oh, D flat. D flat before the D note. Then on the third measure, before the C note, where it goes C, G, C, put a little eighth rest before the C. One, da da da. Da da da. It's not right away. It's like one. You hit the C chord first, and then you play those two notes. Next measure, above the B, an E minor. E as in Edward. E minor. E.
Where are you?
Second line, fourth measure where it says haunts, the B, put an E minor above the B. Then the next, in that same measure, the last note, the E, put an A seventh. A is an apple. Then you're going to put on the next line, the third line, then above the G where it says again, you're going to put a C sharp diminished. C sharp diminished. C sharp and G. Then on the next measure above the D, you put a D minor. D as in dog. Then on the next page, first measure above the A, you're going to hold fill. And you hold the fill till the third measure, the G. Because it does this thing. And it does this big thing I'm going to show you. And while it's doing that, you start. That should last till you get to the last note of that first line, the C, and that starts the melody over again. From the beginning. Now what you got to do on the second page, second line, first measure, you got to put a flag on the D. You got to dot the C. Next measure, that the D, I mean, you could take, you know what, you can tape this other thing in. Actually, you have to take this piece, and you're supposed to put it right there. I got another piece for you. So if I take this piece right here, and I tape it in right there, then I'll be good again. If I have to just cut off the first few notes. This way you don't have to write it in. Yeah. Oh, it's too big. Darn it. Well, you can use it to figure. Well, how about just this piece? Just this piece. Where's my scissor? It's too big to fit in there. Maybe just the second measure. Oh, it's too big also. Well. Just gotta trim it. There. wait, down a little bit. There. Yes. But the notes are the same. So the D in the second measure is supposed to be longer. I mean, you could put a dot on it at least. Oh, lost a few people. Oh well. All right, so got to put that, and then the F has a flag on it, and then you got to add a C note. So it goes AC. So D, C, A, F, D, F, A, C, E. That's how it goes. The lonely night, right? All right, so does that make sense? Wayne? You see it?
Yes. Thank you.
Good. All right, then on the fourth measure, before the D note, the high D, put a D flat. Da 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 da. D flat. The high D where it says you are in my arms, the high D, D flat. Just like we did on the first page. A lot of people do that when they play the song. Third line, before the C note, a little rest. Da da da. It's like one da da, like a little eighth rest, where it goes C G C. On the third line, make a little rest before the C. Da da da. Then the oh, I see why. When I said to put the E minor, I already had my A seventh whited out. So on the third line, second measure, there's an A seventh. That's supposed to be crossed out and made to an E minor. E as in Edward. And then what do we do? Finish it with an A seventh on the low E. So you go E minor to A seventh. So above the beat where the A seventh was is an E minor. On the low E is the A seventh. Then on the next measure, there's a C, A, F, G, E, F notes. Above, between the G and the E, C sharp diminished. Third line, last measure, between the G and the E note, where it says where roses, C sharp diminished.
Is that C or D?
C as in cat. C sharp. So that's supposed to be a C sharp on the both places, on the first page and second page. First page, it's on the third line, between the above the G. Second page, it's the third line, third measure, around about above the G E, around that area. Then on the fourth line above the D, D minor. D as in dog.
Which measure?
First measure of the fourth line above the first note, D, D minor. Now the reason we have to do that is because we were on a D minor. I did the C sharp diminished, and I got to go back to the D minor. Just like raising it up and coming back. It's really neat. Let me make sure of this. Yeah, that works. Okay. On the fourth line, second and third measure, there's a tied F. Once you hit that F, you're going to hold the fill, and you want that same kind of thing going up for a little bit. Hold the fill until you hear that string thing going up. And then this is more advanced, but if you could, on that C, D, E, G, C, E walk up thing, the notes going up, above the high C where it says will, if you can, put an F sharp minor seventh flatted fifth. If you can't do it, you can't do it.
Notes are they?
F sharp minor seventh flatted fifth, the way you make it is C, E, F sharp, A. That's the way I like to play it. Yeah. There's other ways of making it. C, E, F sharp, A. That's how I had. Now, because we did that, I've seen people do this. Now, the next line, there's an E seventh. We could put there's supposed to be two chords there that you're doing right while you're holding that B. The first chord is a B seventh, B as in boy. Instead of the E seventh, a B seventh first. And then right next to it, really close, before you hit that C, E seventh. E as in Edward. So it goes B seventh, E seventh, quickly. Okay. Now on the at the very end, it goes G A F G E F D C, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna make G A F G E F, and then cross out the D C. We're not gonna go down. We're gonna be going up. So cross out the last two notes, D C. And where the C was, you're going to put in high E, the top space. You're going to be going F, slide up to the E, where the C chord is. There's going to be E there, E note. Okay, then cross out the C chord. We don't want to be a C chord yet. So where the C chord is, we don't want that yet. We're going to cross out the C chord. At the very end. You got it? Oh, you already did? No, the C chord. I don't want the C chord. Yeah, C chord goes to the next measure over. But don't put it too low because you have to put, well, the next measure, there's a high G, the G that sits on top of the staff. E, G. That's an alternate way of ending it. Rather than always in C, we're ending on a G note. And we're going to have a C chord above that. Now also, above the E, you want a fermata. E, G, the fermata above the E note, the high E we added. Fermata is a hump with a dot, so you want to hold it as long as you want. A hump with a dot. Fermata. Okay, so there's many ways of playing it. Could do there's always the swing and sway way, you know, but we're gonna play it the other way. Billy Ward. Let's just listen to that. Kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, I remember when I was younger. I'm Italian, half Italian. And my mom used to say, oh, that she knew some of the gangster, people in the know of them. And so when that came out, I was like, yeah. Now it's like, I don't know. Like it's always a bad ending. He gets in trouble and all that. It's like I usually get tired of it by then. I was like, I don't want to watch that part. It's like, yeah, it'd be great. No. Okay. It's funny, Stardust. Okay, so I want to do the Billy. Here it is. I love this rendition.
And now the purple dusk of twilight time steals across the meadows of my heart. High up in the sky, the little stars climb, always reminding me
That's the
that
intro. We don't
we're
have that part. I
one.
remember when that was such a big deal.
You
People wanted to have the intro to Stardust. And then someone had it and they did it. And I was like, wow.
leaving me a song that will
Those
never
were the days. That's
die.
back in my time. My early days here.
Love is now the stardust of yesterday, the music of the years gone
Okay, here we go.
by. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song, the melody
I
of
hear those vocals in the background.
Cary,
The piano.
and I am
Boom,
once a
boom,
kid
boom, doom. That bass.
when our love was new.
The piano's like
And
mild.
each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song beside a garden wall. When the stars were bright, you were in my arms. The nightingale tells his fairy tale of paradise where roses bloom. Though I dream in vain, in my heart it will remain.
See that those chords?
My stardust melody, a memory of love's
I like that. Now if you want like big band, I love big band music. Harry Haig James, 1916 to 83, American musician who was best known for his trumpet playing band leader, as a trumpet playing band leader who led a big band from 39 to 46, the big time. He was especially known among musicians for his technical proficiency as well as his tone, and was influential on new trumpet players from the late 30s into the 40s. He was also an actor in a number of films that usually featured his band. Harry James. Dennis saw Harry James. Benjamin David Goodman, 1909 to 86. That's a long time. Wow. Was an American jazz clarinetist and band leader who known as King of Swing. In the mid-30s, Goodman led one of the most popular music groups in the United States, His concert at Carnegie Hall in New York City on January 16, 1938 is described by critic Bruce Seldon as the single most important jazz or popular music concert in history. Jazz coming out party to the world of respectable music. Because it was, I guess, just little clubs until then. And he was with Gene Krupa. Thomas Francis Dorsey Jr., 1905 to 1956, was American jazz trombonist, composer, conductor, and bandleader of the big band era. He was known as the sentimental gentleman of swing because of his smooth-toned trombone playing. His theme song was "I'm Getting Sentimental Over You." His technical skill on the trombone gave him renown among other musicians. Artie Shaw, Arthur Jacob Arshansky, 1910 to 2004. Wow. Look at that. Was an American clarinetist, composer, Arshansky. Composer, bandleader, actor, and author of both fiction and nonfiction. Busy guy. Widely regarded as one of jazz's finest clarinetists, Shaw led one of the United States' most popular big bands in the late 30s through the early 40s. Though he had numerous hit records, he was perhaps best known for his 1938 recordings of Cole Porter's Begin to Begin, Do-Do-Do-Do. Then Billy Ward and his Dominoes were an American R&B vocal group, one of the most successful R&B groups in the early 50s. The Dominoes helped launch the singing careers of two notable members, Clyde McPhatter and Jackie Wilson. Unforgotten with Alter Style and Auto Bass 2 is Billy Ward and his Dominoes. Another hidden background. Unforgotten, Alter Style. Because if you do Unforgotten, like when I was listening to that piano thing, well, that's 50s ballad normally. Right? And, put the 50s. But I was like, I don't want to use that again. It's got to be other stuff. And I remembered, one day I was going through all the rhythms with the Alter Style. It's like, I found another one. There's actually 2 more rhythms. Well, 3. 3 more rhythms that do the din 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 din. Up there's maybe more, but one of them is the ballad basic. There's that one. So we got 50s ballad, love songs, ballad basic. Then there is Dino. Dino has another one. Dino, another one. But then there's Unforgotten. Regular. Alter Style. And it just has a mild piano, which I like. So we're going to use Unforgotten, Alter Style. 72. Go up to D. And I'm going to use Nostalgic preset number 2, which is Tommy. Nostalgic number 2. I go into my category presets. All right, let's see. Auto Bass 2, yep. Oh, no Orc +1. I got to edit the style. That solo piano is a little much. So I'm going to get rid of that. Shut off. Edit style and turn off the Orc 1 solo piano. No lower tab. No lower flute 8 and 4. No string. Oh, and put in 197 in the lower Genius Sounds tab. 197. So keypad 197 in the lower Genius. That's light. Or did I write down another number in there? Yes, 477. Let's try that. Mine's not that loud. Let me go back to 197. $477. 197. Guess that's all I get. Well. Well, I showed it. I went to levels balance, and I saw that I could bring my lower genius up more. My lower sounds, but I brought it up. I just needed more. It's not a deal break. It's not a song breaker, but all right. So, Unforgotten with Alter Style, 72, up to D. Nostalgic 2, Tommy Dorsey. Auto Bass 2. Edit the style and get rid of the orc 1. Shut off the lower flutes 8 and 4 and the string 8. I'm going to stick with 197 and the lower sounds tab. And raise the lower volume. It depends on your instrument. You might hear it. I wasn't hearing it that well. So I raised it all the way up. It's at 6 lights, and I even went inside to levels balance. Levels balance. There's always another place you can maybe get a volume more. So I hit section. Normally it says orc and solo. So I switched to lower, and I saw the genius. It'll say sounds on some of yours. Lower sounds. Just got to raise that. Here we go. Yes. Maybe a little slower. Felt rushed. I'm going to go on to 68. Yeah, I stuck with the 197 with the lower. Yeah, okay. So the bass, boom, boom, helps the song. Watch. Oh, I missed it. Isn't that great? Now I'll play the way I always used to do it. I'll do like, let's just say I took maybe Serenade, No Work Plus, and I did the Harry James. I always liked playing it with B flat with the Harry James trumpet. Yes. Which one do you like better? You like them all? I can't write out that one. I can't do it. Sorry. It'll take me a year. But I thought, the timing, same song, the notes were, the timing's different. The way they. So I actually at Barney's Coffee, one day I used to go there every day. Before at Starbucks, it was Barney's, and it was better. And they had up in front CDs, and it said Bean City Swing, and then some other big band one. And I bought it. I was like, ooh, because it's important to learn big band. And so, and there was that, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was great. And I thought it was Harry James, and it was Artie Shaw's for years. No, it was Artie Shaw band. It wasn't even Harry James. I thought it was for years. It was Harry James. So anyway, if you listen to the Artie Shaw, the trumpet player, it's another rendition. So, Stardust. Any questions? I just figured, maybe more people would be familiar with the 50s version because, when I listen to, what? No, because you're not as old as 31. Because you're not from 1931. Maybe you didn't listen to that rendition. Maybe you didn't listen to the older versions, maybe a newer version. And when I watch a movie, I don't know, the soundtrack's important. It gets me. I love when they do a lot of familiar songs and they change. Like Goodfellas and Forrest Gump both did the same, and so did Mr. Holland's Opus. What they did is as the years changed, they put the top hits. So you're hearing what, and I think it helps the movie go along. Just that's why those are my favorites, because I got to, learn the times, the songs. So this was when they did this. It was when Henry Hill and the Goodfellas was about 21, and I just thought it was great. I remember when people used to say, "Yeah, we used to dance to the big bands." You really don't hear that much anymore. So it's good stuff. Jazz, it was kind of like disco. It was a little area. They say 38, well, the 30 to the 1950 was the end of it. But there was early jazz, and then they made it into swing and big band. And then into the 50s, they were still going, but then it more went jazzier. It got it wasn't danceable music anymore, like Miles Davis and stuff. It was more of just listening, getting, far out, jazz stuff. So I watched the whole evolution of jazz from the early 1900s, New Orleans, Dixieland type of stuff, into the swing big band era, and then into the jazz, and then fusion and all that stuff. And Duke Ellington was one of the longest running person from the beginning going. So was Louis Armstrong, but Duke Ellington kept coming up with, like Satin Doll. He did that, later. There's a style in here. So some of them kept, like Count Basie, he kept going. But the rock and roll came out, and that's what's gonna kind of change. I don't know if you saw the movie with Bill Haley and the Comets. There was a big band playing, and they're mad at, where is everybody? He's like, I don't know. And he's like, oh, they're down at the high school. They're listening to this new band. So he left the big band, and he went and did rock and roll. So, yep, so that's my story. So I hope you enjoyed it. I like it a lot. I was excited about it. Now you know that if you ever hear that dun, 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 that piano, there's other options rather than just 50s ballad. You got the 50s ballad, you got Dino, Ballad Basic, and Unforgotten with altar style. You have those other options. Yes. Well, have a great day.
Thank you, Cary.
You're welcome. Hope you like it.
I did. Thank you very much.
Okay. Talk to you later.